Hi guys! Welcome back to my channel. This is Nova Gnome Creations and I'm Nova, and today I am going to be showing you guys how to make a bandana or a handkerchief, whatever you would like to call it, that you wear over your head, kind of flapped back over your hair, and we're going to be making it completely with crochet. So here is kind of what the finished project looks like. Here's the front and here is the back. And this part goes back and ties under your hair, and then this part goes over the front, kind of like a headband. We are going to be making a bunch of little granny squares and some half granny squares, and then I'm going to be showing you how to put a border on it and create the tie portion. So go ahead and pick out some yarns. You can pick out as many colors as you would like to. We are going to be doing 6 little granny squares and 4 half granny squares. And then we're going to be doing a single crochet border and then a Picot like decorative border. So you can pick out as many colors as you want to fall into those. And just to give you an idea, so that you know for your color placement, if you're choosing to do multiple colors, this is going to be the layout that we do for our granny squares. So we're going to have 6 granny squares. They're going to be attached in this formation. And then we're going to make 4 little half granny squares, and they'll go in these 2 gaps and here at the ends to make this into a triangle. So once you have picked yourself out some yarn that kind of gives you the vibe that you're going to be looking for, we can go ahead and move on to making the granny squares. So the materials that you're going to need for this project, apart from your yarn, are your darning needle or sewing needle, whatever your preferred method of weaving in your tails is, a 5mm crochet hook, and some scissors. As far as your yarn choice goes, I'm using a worsted weight yarn, but you can actually use a DK weight or a lightweight 3 if you would like to. It will just be a little bit more airy. If you want to make a cooler headscarf or bandana, handkerchief, whatever you'd like to call this, then you can use a lighter yarn, maybe if you want to make like a spring or a summer version. And the same goes for using choosing your yarn content. If you use acrylics or wools or things like that, it's going to make it a little bit warmer. If you use things that are lighter like cotton, they're going to be a little more breathable and maybe moisture wicking. So, just choose whatever you would like to use. This is very versatile and you can make it with whatever you pick. So the first thing that I'm going to do is show you how to make just a simple, basic little granny square. You can use any granny square that you would like for this pattern. If you would like to do a decorative square, go for it. Just keep in mind the larger the square that you use, the bigger your bandana will come out. So for this particular project, I'm going to be starting with a chain rather than a magic circle, but you are welcome to do a magic circle if you prefer. Usually I do, but for this project, I actually think it looks better having the little hole in the middle because it matches the other little holes, and I just think it looks better. So I'm going to be showing you guys how to do that. You're going to go ahead and take your yarn with your tail, place it over your fingers, and do 1 wraparound. You can hold that secure with your thumb if you'd like to. And all you're going to do is take this working yarn, which is the yarn still attached to the ball, and you're going to push it through the hole that you just made of that circle. And then you're going to hold on to it and you're just going to pull on the tail. And all we did right now is just create a slip knot. You're going to place this slip knot onto your hook. Go ahead and pull and tighten it up. And then we are going to chain 4. So just to chain, you just yarn over your crochet hook and pull through. And we're going to do that 4 times. Once you have a chain of 4, we are going to slip stitch back into that first chain. So you're going to place your hook through that first chain, yarn over, pull through, and then you're actually going to continue to pull through the yarn that's already on your hook, and that is a slip stitch. Then you're going to go ahead and chain 2, and this is going to count as your first double crochet. Now, in the middle here of this little chain that we made, is where we're actually going to place our stitches. So if you'd like to take a second to kind of pull that apart for yourself so you can see the middle of this little circle that you just made, because that's what you just made, was a little circle with those 4 chains. That's where you're going to be crocheting into. So we're going to make some double crochets. We're going to do granny clusters, which is clusters of 3 double crochets. So you're going to yarn over, go through the center of the circle that you made, go through and pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and that is a double crochet. And since we're counting that chain 2 as a stitch, that is 2 double crochets. So we are going to go ahead and yarn over again to do another double crochet, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And as we go, we are going to work over this little tail that we've got here. So this is the first row, or the first round of our little granny square. You can make your granny square however you prefer to. You can chain 1 in between your clusters, or you can chain 2 in between your clusters, whatever you're most comfortable with. Most people chain 2 in between their clusters, or even 3. For mine, I actually only chained 1. It makes a little bit of a tighter stitch for your granny square, but that is totally up to you, and you can do it however you prefer. So for me, I'm going to go ahead and chain 1 because that's 1 cluster done, and I'm putting this here to be a little gap for a corner. Then you're just going to make another cluster. And like I said, you're going to hold this tail alongside your circle here and just work right over it. If that's too difficult for you, just ignore the tail completely and you can just sew it in a little bit. So we're just going to go ahead and place some more double crochets. We're going to do 3 double crochets because we are doing a cluster, otherwise known as a granny stitch. Just 3 double crochets. All right, just like that. And then you're going to chain 1 or 2 or 3, depending on how big you want your little corner gaps to be. And when you work into these in the next round, they do get a little bit bigger. So, like I said, totally up to you. We're going to place another granny cluster here, so 3 double crochets again. So every cluster, we're going to put a chain after to separate the corners. That's going to be the corners. So we've got 1 cluster, 2 clusters right here, and the 3rd cluster right here. We're going to do another chain, and we're going to do our 4th and final cluster for this round, which is 3 double crochets. And then we're going to do 1 more chain, and we're going to go to this first chain 2 that we had done that counted as a double crochet, and we're going to go into the top chain of the 2. So if you want, you can kind of pull on it and separate it. You can see 1 chain and 2 chains. You're going to go into that 2nd chain and slip stitch. So just go through and pull your loop through the top and through the loop on your hook. And it is going to look like this. Now what this is your first round of your granny square. It is 4 granny clusters and 4 corners. Okay? Now we are going to slip stitch our way to this next corner. So you're going to go into the top of the double crochet next to the stitch you're in, and you're going to do a slip stitch. And remember, a slip stitch, we're going to go into this next one, is just when you go into the top of that stitch, yarn over, pull through, and pull through that loop on your hook. And then we're going to do 1 more slip stitch that brings us into this corner over here. And then now we're going to go ahead and chain 2 for our first stitch of our double crochet, or our granny cluster. So this is going to count as a double crochet. We're going to go ahead and put 2 more double crochets in there. And then we've got a cluster. Then we're going to go ahead and chain for our corner, and we're going to put 3 more double crochets in the same corner for another cluster. So same spot that you're doing the first cluster in, you're going to stay here, and you're going to put another one. And it's going to look like that. Now we're going to go to this next corner, and I personally am not going to chain anything. I am just going to work in that next corner. Once again, this is up to personal preference. If you prefer to put a chain in between your corners, go for it. So we're going to go ahead and place a granny cluster over here. So we're just doing 3 double crochets. And it will look like that. Go ahead and chain 1, or however many you do for your corner, and place another double crochet. And this is just how you're gonna do a basic granny square. So we've got another granny cluster here, and you'll notice that we are getting a nice little square shape going on. We're gonna go to the next corner, and we are gonna do another granny cluster. So 3 double crochets. And then a chain. And 3 double crochets again. And since we're making such small granny squares for this, this is going to be the final row. We're only doing a 2 round granny square. So we're going to go to this last corner. We're going to place a granny cluster, aka 3 double crochets. And we are going to chain. Place 1 more granny cluster in this corner here. And then you're going to go over to this first chain 2 that we did that counted as a double crochet. You're going to see that there are 2 chains. You got your 1 chain and your second chain there. And then you have your 2 double crochets next to it. You're going to go into that second chain and slip stitch. And it'll look like this. And then what I like to do is just do chain 1. That way when we tie off, it creates a little knot. You're going to want to leave yourself a longish tail because we are going to use these tails to sew together our bandana. Then you're going to pull up on your hook to get that finished and tied off there. And you've got your first square. So you're just going to repeat this 6 times and then meet me back and we will make the corner squares. All right, so once you've got 6 of these made, I can go ahead and show you the layout and you can decide on the colors that you're going to want for your 4 half granny squares. So you can lay out your colors and then figure out how you're going to want to assemble them. I made 2 of each color that I made. So I'm going to put this variegated one in the center because I want this blue to go in the middle. Then I'm going to do my browns. We're basically making a little diamond shape. So we're putting all the granny squares skewed into, you know, the side. Instead of having them like this, we're skewing them to the side. And we're doing one of these numbers. So we'll do that. And then we're going to have one in the middle. I'm going to put this one. Oh, wait, actually, I want this one in the middle. There we go. And then this one at the end. And these 2 will go right here. Okay, so this is how it's going to go. And then we are going to make 4 half grannies. So I'm going to show you how to make the half granny here in a second. So you can choose where you want your colors to be with this knowledge. This is what the half grannies are going to look like. And they're going to go in these spots like this, and then there'll be 2 more, and they are going to go up here at the corners to make this into a triangle. So we're going to put 2 more, 1 in each of these corners. All right, and let me show you how to make a half granny. So to make a half granny, we're going to go ahead and grab whatever color yarn you want to use and your crochet hook. We're going to do the same thing we did for the other one, which is start by making a slip knot. And we're going to chain 4. This is going to be the exact same thing that we did for the full granny squares, but we're just only going to do half. So you're going to chain 4, and I'll show you what I mean. All right, you've got your chain of 4. You're going to slip stitch into that first chain. And then we're going to chain 2. And then we're going to put a double crochet into the middle of our circle here. And we're going to put 1 more double crochet. So we have 1 granny cluster, since that chain 2 counts as a double crochet. Then you're going to chain 1, or however many you like to do for the corner of your granny squares. And then we're going to put 3 more double crochets for another granny cluster. And this is where we change it up a little bit, because we're only doing a half of a square. All right, so you've got this. Now we're going to chain 2, and we're going to flip our work. And then you're going to put 2 double crochets in this first stitch, in the top of that first double crochet that you just chained off of, and that's going to give you a granny cluster. Then we're going to go over here to this middle in between these 2 clusters from the last round, and we are going to put a granny cluster. So 3 double crochets. And then you're just going to chain however many you like to chain for your corners. For me, that's 1. And put another cluster. So in this middle, you should have 3 double crochets, your chain, and then 3 double crochets again. And it's looking like this. Then we're going to go down here to where we had chained 2 originally when we started on this side. And remember, this is 2 double crochets here and then that chain 2. We are going to put a double crochet into the top chain. So go into that second chain there and place a double crochet. And then we are going to go ahead and place 2 more, because we're making another granny cluster. All right, and then that is all you got to do for the half. I like to do a chain 1 to tie off, because that's going to give me a nice little knot there. And grab your scissors. Make sure you leave yourself a little bit of a tail, because we're going to use those to attach. And it will look like this. So kind of like a little bit of a fan. But what it is if you take your other granny square, it is a half of a granny square. So it may look a little funky when it's not attached, but when we go and attach everything together, it won't look quite so funky. But that is how you make those. So go ahead and make a total of 4 of these in whatever colors you'd like, and then meet me back and I will show you how to assemble everything. Okay guys, so for the next step, you're going to want to go ahead and grab those scissors and your darning needle, and we are going to work on putting together our squares. So you won't need your crochet hook for this step. What we're going to do is, remember I had you come up with your idea of how you wanted to display them, where you wanted to position them. Well, you're going to have this layout, but we're going to flip everything over backwards because we are going to sew everything together on the back. So what we're going to do is you're going to flip things over, And if you want, you can flip it all over and have it laid out. I will do that over to the side. You're not going to be able to see it. That way I have my workspace cleared. But you're just going to flip them all over so that they are back facing up. And you'll know it's the back, for one, if you haven't woven in these tails yet. For two, you can kind of tell just by looking at them that this is the front of your double crochets. And this is the back of your double crochets. But also, like I said, if you haven't woven in these tails yet from your start, the magic circle tail, or we did the chain method, this tail is going to be on the back. So go ahead and flip everything over if you'd like to do that so that you have everything arranged where you're going to want it, and then we can continue. And like I said, I'm just going to flip them over real quick, and then I'm going to actually slide it off camera. That way I can have my workspace cleared. For the half circle, or for the half grannies, it doesn't really matter which way you have them. Half of the granny square will be backwards no matter what, since we turned our work and continued. So you can just pick whatever side you like best to be the front of those ones. All right, and then once I've got that, I'm just going to slide everything over. All right, and what we're going to do is I'm going to bring over my point. This is the point of my bandana. And I'm going to bring over 2 of the side pieces just so I can explain to you how we do this. Okay, so remember our little point. We are going to work the backs of these to sew them together. And we're actually going to use these tails that we left on here to sew them together. So I'm going to choose my rotation by making sure I have a tail facing each, like, part to sew it. So for example, this side right here will be sewn together with this tail. This side right here will be sewn together with this tail. And then that'll leave this tail right here for when I put that square in. And you know, whenever there's a spot where you don't have a tail, or your tail's not long enough or anything like that, you just grab your yarn skein that you used and you sew, and you just get yourself a length of it and sew with it. So what we're going to do is, I don't know why I flipped that. What we're going to do is set this to the side so I can show you. We are going to sandwich these 2 squares together so that the fronts face each other. Okay? So we're going to have the backs of our squares facing up and the fronts sandwiched together. Just like that. And it really doesn't matter what's the front or back. If you like one side more than the other, then that can be the front. Then we're going to take whatever yarn that you are going to be connecting these 2 sides together with. And we are going to thread it onto our needle. Now what we're going to do is, we ended like not in the corner. So what we're going to do is we're just going to weave our way down to the corner real quick. I just go under the whole stitch, the top of the whole stitch. But it really doesn't matter how you weave your way down to the corner. However you want to do it is fine. Now you've got these sandwiched together. And what we're going to do is, you see here, you've got the tops of your stitches. These 2 loops are the top of 1 stitch. These 2 loops are the top of 1 stitch. Same over here. These 2 loops are the top of 1 stitch. These 2 loops are the top of 1 stitch. We are going to grab the front loops only. And the way to like think of that is, if this were laying flat, these front loops would be the loops closest to us. So since we have them sandwiched, it is going to be this loop that's on the outside. So this one, and on this side, this one. So you're going to leave these loops that are closest to each other unworked. And that's going to give you a ridge effect in the front. Okay? So we're going to start at the corner with that chain space that we worked in between the 2 grannies. You're going to grab that front loop with your needle, and then you're going to go over to the other side to that chain space, and you're going to grab that loop with your needle. Okay? So you're leaving the 2 loops that are closest to each other there, that are sandwiched together, unworked. And then you're just going to pull through. You're going to do the same thing over here. We're going to go to the next stitch, which is our top of our first double crochet. You're going to go through this loop right here, but leave that one closest to the other square unworked. And then you're going to go over here and you're going to grab the loop that's farther over. That's the front loop. And it's going to look a little funky right here because that was a chain 2 stitch for me and not a double crochet, but that's okay. You can just work it the best that you can, you know, look at it and see what's going to look like the closest thing to the front loop if it's a chain. And you're just going to work that all the way down. So let me show you again. This is the top of the stitch, right? You have the 2 loops. You're going to only pick up this one, leaving the one that's closest to the other granny square unworked. And then on the other side, you're going to also leave this other one that's closest to the other granny square unworked, and you're only going to take this one. All right, and then now we'll go back down the other way. We're going to grab this one closest to us, leaving the ones that are close to each other on the 2 granny squares unworked. And then right here, we're going to take that outer one again. Okay, so this right here is the whole top of your double crochet stitch, and you're leaving this loop that's closest to the other granny square unworked. Same on this side. This right here is the top of that double crochet stitch. You're going to leave that one closest to the other granny square unworked. So go under just that farther one and just the farther one on this side. And you're going to do this all the way down until you get to the chain space at the corner on this end. Okay, so that was the top of the last double crochet. I'm now at the chain space right here and the chain space right here. And if your squares aren't lining up perfectly, that is totally fine. Just make it work. You know, if you accidentally were off by a stitch or something, that's fine. Just make it work. All right. And when you do that, it's going to look like this on the front. And once you have reached the end and you've worked that last little chain corner, you're just going to weave in your tail a little bit. So go ahead and go in wherever you would like to and stick your needle through. Make sure that it's not just coming through and making like a long string on this side. You're going to want to put it like in the middle of the stitches, you know. And then we're just going to weave back and forth a little bit to secure this tail. If you can get in the middle of the stitches, like in the fiber of the stitches, even better. It'll be more secure like that. But if you weave back and forth kind of in the same spot, it'll create a nice little secure spot for your tail to be kind of stuck in. And I would recommend weaving back and forth at least 3 times, but you can go until you're comfortable. And then you're just going to need your scissors again, and you can cut the yarn right up to the end of where you just got done weaving it in. And you see how those front loops that we left, or those back loops that we left, whatever they are, those 2 loops that are closest to each other that we left unworked, they create a ridge around our granny squares. Okay, so there is one of them done, and it can go like this. This is the front of the squares. Remember, we are working the back of the squares. So you are going to want to keep that in mind as you continue to work your project so that you don't accidentally flip-flop and have some facing forward and some facing back. So always keep in mind to keep them facing the same direction. But that's what it's going to look like. And you're just going to continue to do this for all of your squares. So flipping it back over so that these are the fronts, you'll just attach this one to here and this one to here, and you're just going to keep sewing those loops that I showed you together. And when you get to the middle, we're going to make sure that everything kind of comes together. So go ahead and attach on this one here to the side here, and this one here to the side of one of these ones. And then I'll meet you back and I'll show you what we can do here in the center. Now that you've got these three connected together, we're going to go ahead and put this one in the center. So I have here a tail on this side, so I can sew on that side with it, and then I'm going to put this one facing this way, and then I can sew those two together. Like I said, if at some point you end up with a tail not being where you need it to be or something, that's totally fine. This is just me using my yarn tails because why not? But you can always just cut yourself a length of yarn from the skein and sew with that. And you can always weave these in if they end up on the wrong side, just like normal. So I'm going to face them this way. I'm going to sew these on. This is the front right now. So like always, for this project, we're going to make sure that we flip it and sew it on the back. I'm going to go ahead and thread my needle, and I'm going to go ahead and work my yarn down to the corner down here so that I can attach these two together, starting from the corner. All right, so I am now to the corner. I'm going to put these here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip this over so that my fronts are facing together. I'm going to hold these sandwiched together, and we're going to attach it the same way that we did before. So I'm going to go over to the corner and grab that loop that's furthest away, and then I'm going to go under the loop that's furthest away and the one that's closest to me, leaving those two loops on each granny square that are close together. And I'm just going to work my way down to the end, doing this all the way down. And the reason that I wanted to come back for this part and show it to you was as we're attaching here, we still need to go to the corner, and I've been attaching the corner to the other granny squares. You're just going to keep doing that. So you know how we have the corner of our granny square here where the chain is? You're still going to attach those together even though they're already attached to another square. And you're going to do that so that all of the squares come together in the middle. And it just has to look good. So don't worry about perfection here. If you end up not going in the back loop properly in the middle, that's fine. It's not a big deal. It's going to look totally fine however you connect it. And then I just kind of weave my tail a little bit in this center area, just so that I know that the center is going to come together nicely. So I just kind of grab some of the loops from the center there, and you notice that it's making it all come together right here in the middle, where those corner loops are all being worked by all of these squares. And then you just weave in your tail per normal, and you can weave in your tail on any of the squares, by the way. If you want, you can weave them all in on one square. It doesn't matter. So go ahead and weave in your tail. And then you're going to do the same thing to attach the other side of the square to the other side. And go ahead and cut that tail. All right, and then now we've got this. So we need to sew this edge together right here, and that is what this tail is for. So you can go ahead and bring it down to the end, sew your way back, and then just make sure that you attach the middle too and sew in the end. You're going to go ahead and do that, and you're going to go ahead and do the same for these two that go right here. Go ahead and sew these lines together, these sides together. So you're going to want your tail facing that side, tail facing that side. And then we are going to go ahead and attach the half granny squares after that. So meet me back once you've got these sewn on. All right, and now that you have got all of your main granny squares connected together, you've got your nice ridges formed here because we did all of the attaching in the back. we are going to go ahead and attach the half granny squares. And you're going to attach them in the same way that you've been attaching everything, but I thought I would come and show you anyways, just to make sure that you knew how to do it. So figure out where you're going to want these. I am going to put mine like this so that I've got my brown kind of dispersed, and I made 2 of each color. So I actually brought in a different color for my half grannies there. And then of course this brown, because I wanted to have a little bit more brown throughout. I'm going to show you how to attach this one, and then I'll show you how to attach this one, and then you'll just do the same thing on the other side. All right. So for these granny squares, we are already at the corner. We don't have to weave our way down to the corner, but we're going to go ahead and attach on to our needle. And once you've got your yarn on the needle, we're going to do the same thing that we've been doing. You are going to want to flip the front of the squares sandwiched together so that you have the backs facing out. And we're going to attach this in the same way we've been attaching all of the other corners, or all of the other sides. So we are here at what is considered to be the corner of our square. We're going to go over here to that chain in the corner here between these 2 clusters like we've been doing, and we're going to grab that outer loop. We're going to sew these together the exact same way we've been doing. So leave those 2 loops that are closest together on the granny squares unworked. Grab just the outer loops and sew those together. And you're going to go all the way down and you're going to sew those together. Just working your way back and forth, grabbing those 2 outer loops on each square. And when you get to the center, we're going to make sure that we sew a little bit so that we have everything connecting nicely. Okay, so we're about to be at the corner there and the corner here, and we want to make sure that we sew these together so that there's not a little gap. So what we're going to do is we're going to come down here and we're going to grab a loop. Come back up here and grab a loop. And like I said, this doesn't have to be perfect. You know, if you just kind of grab what you need to grab to bring everything together. But I am aiming for the back loops, just the same as we have been the whole time. That way, I am not messing with my ridge up front, if at all possible. And I'm actually going to just do a little bit of weaving here in the corner, grabbing these back loops that are all connected together to the other squares, just to make everything cinch together. And then I'm going to rotate my work and I'm going to go ahead and work this other side. So go ahead and sandwich those fronts together again and work it the way that you've been doing it. So we're going to go through these loops that are not the ones that are closest together. And you're going to work your way back down your work. And you can kind of hold this stretched a little bit if you need to. And like I said, if you don't have them lined up perfectly, that is totally fine. Just do the best that you can. It's really not a super picky project. So if you have, you know, 2 loops connected together that aren't technically supposed to go together, you're really not going to be able to tell. So it's very beginner friendly, forgiving type of sewing here. Okay. And then when we get to the corner, you're going to work that chain space with the very corner of the crochet of this half granny. All right, and then we are going to sew in our tail. So go ahead and rotate this however you need to give yourself some good access. We're going to sew in this tail. And I'm just weaving back and forth a couple of times here in this corner to sew my tail in. But you can sew your tail in anywhere you want and however you want. I'm just securing it so that it won't come out. And then I'm going to cut that. And that is one of our half grannies attached. So you're going to go ahead and you're going to attach the next one here at the corner. And the reason we're doing this is we are wanting to make this into a triangle shape. Okay, so I have the front of my work facing up right now. And remember I told you guys earlier that the half grannies don't really have a front or a back because we flip our work halfway through. So technically half of it is front and half of it is back, no matter which way you have it faced. I prefer to have the front of this second loop facing up, so I'm going to put it this way. I just like the way that the front of the double crochets looks a little bit better, but you can have it facing whatever way you like. Just basically look at it and say, which way do I think it looks better? And then put it that way. Either way, it doesn't really matter, except for that where your tail is, isn't going to line up maybe if you have it facing this way. If you do it this way, then your tail will line up nicely for sewing. So that's not really a big deal though, because you can just weave your way down. All right, so I'm going to put mine like this, and my tail is not where I want it. So I'll show you how to get down to where we want it. So this is the front of our work. We're going to be crocheting these two sides together. So I need to get down to the corner here where I have my little chain space, because that is the corner of my granny. And it looks funny when it's not like stretched out, but you know, when this was stretched out, if it was actually blocked, it would be a half of a square and be a triangle. So I'm going to go ahead and put my yarn on my needle. And just really quickly, I am going to weave back and forth under the tops of these stitches just to get myself down to the end. You can weave your way down any way you want to. It doesn't matter. I'm just doing it this way because it's quick and easy. And then that gets me down to the corner where I want to be to attach on. And we are just going to do a little bit of sewing. So I'm at the corner of my square right now, right here, and I'm going to want to attach on to the corner here. So I'm going to grab that back loop that's furthest away, and I'm going to grab this part where it's kind of sewn to the other square, and I'm going to pull through. I'm going to kind of stretch my little half granny to make sure it goes all the way to the end so that I know I'm attaching it all the way across and not, you know, kind of cinched over and not getting all the loops, if that makes sense. And let me focus my camera. All right, we're just going to grab these back loops, leaving those two loops that are closest together on each square unworked. And just like so. As we get to the corner here, we're at our chain space on this side. And this side doesn't have a chain space, it just has this corner. So I'm just going to put it in to that corner. And it's going to look like that. I like to give it a little extra sewing here at the corner. Just kind of sticking it back through in the middle of the stitches. We're gonna add a border to this, so don't worry about your edges not looking perfect and polished. That won't matter when we go to add our border. And then I am just gonna try to catch some of the fibers as I weave in this tail. And when you finish doing that, it should look a little something like this. So the next thing that we're going to do is we are going to go around the whole thing and do a single crochet border. We're going to start wherever you would like to, it doesn't matter. And you're going to attach on in the border color that you would like. So I am going to go ahead and attach on here at the corner, Make sure that the front of your work is facing up. That way the single crochet's fronts will be on the front of your work. I'm just going to go like right in the corner right here, and I am going to put the yarn over my hook, and I am going to pull through and slip stitch. And this is just to attach on. Okay, I'm going to work right over this little tail here, and I'm going to go ahead and chain 1, and then I'm going to single crochet in this first stitch, this first top of this double crochet next to it. It'll look like this. And now I'm just going to double or single crochet in every stitch around. There isn't a certain amount of stitches that you need to have or anything like that, just so that it looks good. So single crochet in every stitch, and kind of wing it when you get to spots where there aren't stitches. For example, when we get to the top of here, how you're working in the sides, or where, you know, these little connects are. You just kind of wing it. Whatever looks nice. There's no wrong way to do this. There's no set amount of stitches that you have to have or anything like that, where like the math's going to get messed up or something. So don't fret as you work on this. It is very forgiving. So I just kind of stuck my hook into this little gap area where I had sewn these stitches together, and picked up some of those loops there and made a single crochet there too. And then the rest of these single crochets are just right into the tops of these double crochets that we've placed in the granny squares. And I'm working right over this tail. Now that I've got it covered up, I'm just going to snip this little fuzzy end here. That way I don't got to deal with it anymore. And continue my way down. We're just going to single crochet all the way around as the first round of our border. And just like so. And I want to grab more than one loop here if I can. See how that's just one loop? I would rather grab a couple. And like I said, you can put however many stitches is going to look good. So there's no set amount. So in that little gap area, I happened to put 2 because I think that it looks better with 2 right there for my particular project. But most of it's pretty straightforward. You're just single crocheting into the stitches. So nothing complicated. And then we're about to come down to the corner down here. Let's see, how do I want to do that? Yeah, there we go, that looks good. And don't mind if it's a little ripply looking as you're working around the granny squares, you know, if it's got a little bit of like bubbling going around the squares, because when we do the Picot border here in a minute around as a second round, then it will cover that up. Then it's just some pretty texture. All right, and now we have made it to the bottom. When you get down here to the bottom, in this gap right here at the very corner of your granny square, you're going to put a single crochet, a chain, and another single crochet. And then you're just going to rotate your work and continue to single crochet up this other side. And when you get to the other corner here, we've just got the top left to do. You are going to work your last, oops, not in frame. Work your last single crochet up here at the corner, and then you are going to do a chain, and then you are going to rotate your work, and you're going to put a single crochet in the same stitch. and that's going to work you around the corner. Then we are going to work our way across the top, and like I said, just put your stitches where looks good, where feels natural for you. There's no wrong way to do this. It's just making yourself a little single crochet border here. And like I said before too, if it's not perfectly straight, that's totally fine. You're going to come back through and you're going to do a Picot border, and it's going to make everything look a little straighter. But also the ripple effect that you get doing the edge actually looks pretty cool in my opinion. And so that is what it kind of looks like. So for the double crochets, you basically want to work, you want to work like 2 single crochets per double crochet typically. I don't like that. Trying to get in this little sewn corner here. This isn't a stitch, and trying to do that without grabbing extra fiber. But yeah, you'll do like 2 single crochets usually for like a double crochet. You kind of go into the first half and then into the second half, because what you're working into right now is actually the sides of the double crochets. You're working like these are like the double crochets sides, or they're chain stitches for the most part. So that is why you don't have, you know, your normal tops of your stitches to work into. So it's a little bit awkward, but totally doable. Like I said, you know, don't fret about it. Just stick your stitches wherever you stick your stitches and it'll all work out. And there's no such thing as, you know, you having too many or something, because this pattern is not reliant on you having a specific amount of stitches for it to work out. So just working my way across. And then when we do our Picot border, you can either use the same color yarn that you're already using if you would like your border to be all one color, or if you would like to use a second color, you can tie off and attach on with your second color. Need to get myself a little bit more yarn here. But we are almost done. The Picot border is the last part. Part of that Picot border, well, the Picot border and then the chain that we do for the band. That's all we've got left. So almost finished. If you've enjoyed this tutorial, make sure that you leave a thumbs up. And I would totally love it if you left a comment. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And if you want to get notified when I post videos, make sure you hit that little bell icon that is next to the subscribe button. I post tutorials and yarny vlogs, lots of crochet fun, do monthly gnomes. I like to do seasonal things like special events for Halloween and Christmas and things like that. Lots of community stuff. Right now I'm actually doing a community project. And if you're interested, you can see more about that on my channel. Alright, so I am getting back to this corner here, and you see where this first stitch was attached. I am just going to single crochet in that same stitch, chain 1, and slip stitch into this first chain that I had made when I first attached on. And then chain 1 so that it makes a little knot when I tie off, and then I'm going to tie off, leaving myself a little tail for sewing in. If you are not changing colors, you do not have to tie off. You can just slip stitch and then continue this next step in the same color. But here is what we are looking like. So the next part that we're going to do is going to be our Picot border. So go ahead and grab whatever color you would like to do your Picot border in, or if you are going to use the same color, then you can just stay attached with the color that you did your single crochet border in. And I'm going to come over here to this corner that I just tied off in. I'm going to attach back on into the chain space that I had made here for the corner. So I'm going to put my hook through that chain space. I'm going to yarn over, pull through, and then I'm going to yarn over and pull through. That's just a slip stitch, and that will tie me on nicely here. We're going to start our corner by making a picot. So the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to single crochet into the same stitch that we're in, and I'm going to work over my tails as I go, so feel free to do that if you would like to. Got a single crochet in there, and then I'm going to chain 3 and slip stitch into that first chain, and that is our picot. I'm going to tie these two tails together since they're right next to each other, just to make it a little bit more secure before I work over them. You can choose to do that or not, it doesn't matter. I just figured they're both right next to each other, so I might as well make it a little more secure. Alright, and then after you've done that picot, the next thing that you're going to do is just start to single crochet. So the repeat for this is 3 single crochets and a picot. And we're going to work over these tails that we've got. So go ahead and pop a single crochet in. My yarn is a bit splitty here. There we go. Alright, so that's 1 single crochet. You're going to work the second single crochet and your third single crochet, and then you're going to go ahead and make that picot. So you're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then you're going to slip stitch back into that first chain, and that makes your picot. Then you're going to single crochet 3 again. So 1 single crochet, 2, and 3. Then you're going to go ahead and you're going to chain 3 to make your picot. So 1, 2, and 3. And then you are going to slip stitch into the first chain. So go back down here, put your hook through, yarn over and pull through, and continue to pull through. And then you just single crochet 3. 1. And I'm working over those chains, or over those tails still. 2. And 3. If you do not want to work over your tails, that is totally fine. You can weave those in separately, or you can work over them. So this is what this is going to look like. We've got our little picot border forming here. You're going to do this all the way around, and it's going to be the same all the way around except for at the point down here. You are not going to put any picots in this top part because this is where we are going to work the tie portion to tie it around your head. So go ahead and work all the way down here to the point, and then I will show you how to do the point. And I am approaching the corner here, so I'm just doing my 3 single crochets, doing my chain 3, and slip stitching back into the first chain to create my picot stitch. And then what we're going to do is a little bit different here at the corner. So we are coming up to the corner here, and there in that corner is 2 single crochets and a chain. So what we're going to do is after this chain 3 picot, we are going to single crochet, and then we are actually going to go ahead and picot again immediately and slip stitch back into there. There's our picot. And then we are going to single crochet into this chain space. We're going to picot again. And then we are going to single crochet into that other single crochet on the other side. So that gives us a little picot kind of at the point down here, and two, oops, kind of out of frame, and two little picots on the sides. And then we are just going to continue to single crochet, or continue to picot, do our single crochet picot border up this other side until we get to the corner. We are approaching the corner here, and when we get to this corner, we are going to be going and working our chain strap that is going to make it so that you can tie this around your head. So just continue to do your little picots and your single crochets until you get up there. And we're going to be ending on a picot. Remember, we started up there in the corner with a single crochet and a picot, so we're going to end the same way. And this part is like a little bit weird because we are finishing off and changing what we're doing, but I will take you right along and explain it to you as I go. So we've just got that one, and you'll notice that we are going to kind of run out of stitches a little bit here. That is totally fine. What you're going to do is you're still just going to do your 3 single crochets. The second one is going to be in your corner stitch, most likely. That's how mine is, and how mine has been every time I've done one of these. I just went ahead and single crocheted into the one right around the corner anyways, and then did my chain 3 and picot. And then what I did, because I don't want this picot to turn like this and be part of the chain that is going to be made to make this into a headband, or head tie, however you want to phrase it. So what I did was I actually went back down into the stitch and just slip stitched to pull this in. And then now it is more held in, and it's not going to skew off to the side when we do our chain. Now we're going to do our chain, and you can chain however many you want to. This is going to be what makes this into a piece to wrap around your head and tie. So these are going to be the ties. On my previous one, I did 35, a chain of 35 on either side, and it was a nice good length, but it didn't leave a whole lot of extra tie if you're wanting to do like a bow, like tie it in a bow or something. So I'm going to go a little bit longer this time, and I'm going to do 40. So we're just going to chain 40, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and you can chain as many as you want to here. So if you want these ties to be really long, then you can chain even more. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, and 40. And then you are just going to skip the first chain that's closest to your hook here. And you are going to slip stitch into that second chain. So let me make sure this is focused for you guys. You're not going to slip stitch into this first one, but you're going to slip stitch into the next one. And then you are just going to slip stitch your way in every chain back down. And that's all you're going to do. You're just going to slip stitch your way all the way back down this chain until you get back to the bandana. And then we are going to switch to single crochets when we get down there, and single crochet across the single crochets that we had done in the previous row. And this is it. Super, super simple. This is how you make this nice reinforced tie. It's going to be nice and sturdy. It's going to look nice. And it's going to create our tie for us. So just continue to slip stitch your way down until you get back to those single crochets. Oops, sorry for bumping into you. All right, and that is the last chain. So we are back to the spot where we had done our picots and slip stitch back over here, and this is what your nice chain looks like that you just made. Now that we're back over here, we are just going to single crochet our way across. So you can decide if you want to single crochet into that same stitch that you made a single crochet in before chaining, or if you want to go to the next one, it doesn't matter. Same as before, you can single crochet wherever your little heart desires at that corner, because it's all just about how you want it to look. And now single crocheting the rest of the way across is super easy, because we already single crocheted across here when we did our single crochet border. So now you're just placing a single crochet in every single crochet. So super straightforward, super easy. And you are just going to continue to single crochet until you find your way to the other side and you hit that spot where you had attached on and made that picot. Or if you didn't have to reattach and you were using the same color, it'll still be that spot where you had made your picot stitch. And this part that we're crocheting right now is going to be the part that goes at the top of your head, close to your forehead, and then wraps around and ties underneath of your hair. So you are almost done making your very own crochet bandana. I really hope that you've enjoyed this tutorial. I would love to see what your makes look like. If you want to send them in, you can always tag me on Instagram or message me there, or you can email me. If you would like to be part of our community spotlight that we do on Fridays, you can always send me an email with your makes, and then I will put them in my Friday video and show them off to the community. You just got to let me know your name and put community spotlight as the subject for that email if you would like to be included. Community spotlight is for anyone in our community here. So if you're watching this video, then that's you. So I would totally recommend you do that if you would like to. Get some kind words and encouragement from other crafty peoples, other yarny peoples in our community here. And we are making our way to the end. And there is the last single crochet before I did my little single crochet and picot. And then we are just going to repeat the same thing and do a chain of 40 and then slip stitch our way back down it, and then we will be done. You'll just want to slip stitch and tie off, and then you have finished. Okay, and now that you have worked your chain and worked your way back down with your slip stitches, you should be back at this corner where you started. And all you're gonna do is slip stitch right here into that very corner. And then you can chain one or not, depending on how you like to tie off. It's totally your preference. I like to chain one just because it gives me a little knot when I do that. You just pull up on your hook and then you've got your little knot there securing the end. So that's why I like to do that. And now all you're going to do is weave in this tail here and you are completely done. You have finished your bandana and it looks like this. You've got your little ties. You've got your little Picot border. Everything looks so cute. You've got your little kind of 3D effect going on because of the way that we sewed together the granny squares. And it is absolutely stunning, if I do say so myself. So I would love to see what yours looks like if you feel like sharing it. But either way, I hope that you enjoy wearing it or gifting it or whatever you do with yours. And I hope to see you again here real soon. I'll see you on the next one. Bye, guys.